The alarm wailed through Outpost Meridian at 0300 hours and Nova was already moving. Her boots hit the cold metal floor of her quarters as red emergency lights painted everything in shades of blood and shadow. 3 years on the frontier had taught her that midnight alarms meant one thing. Something had breached the perimeter. She reached for her helmet, the Mark 7 atmospheric processor that had kept her alive through solar flares, toxic gas leaks, and one memorable decompression event, and found nothing but empty air. Computer, locate my helmet, she said, pulling on her pressure suit with practiced efficiency. Mark 7 helmet last detected in Cargo Bay 3, 14 minutes ago. Nova's jaw tightened. Cargo Bay 3 was on the opposite side of the station, past the damaged bulkhead that should have been repaired 2 weeks ago. And 14 minutes was a lifetime in an emergency. She grabbed her spare respirator and ran. The station groaned around her, its aging infrastructure protesting the stress of another crisis. Through the viewports, the planet below churned with violet storms, beautiful and deadly. This world had no name yet, just a designation, LV-447. Nova had been alone here for 8 months, maintaining the automated mining operation and conducting atmospheric surveys. Alone, that is, until 3 days ago. She'd found the cub in Cargo Bay 3, curled among the supply crates, one of its 6 legs twisted at an unnatural angle. The species had no classification in the database. Nova had catalogued it herself. Quadrupedal locomotion with auxiliary limbs, crystalline bone structure, bioluminescent markings along the spine that pulsed with its breathing. Apex predator physiology, roughly the size of a wolf cub but with a jaw that could probably crack titanium. She'd named it Ash, for the color of its fur and the ash storms that raged outside. Against every protocol, every ounce of training, she'd set the leg. The cub had watched her with eyes like fractured mirrors, calculating and ancient in a too young face. It hadn't bitten her. That should have been her first warning that this creature was far more intelligent than any mere animal. Cargo Bay 3 was in chaos when she arrived. The containment fields had failed on 3 storage units and crates had tumbled across the deck. Emergency foam covered one wall where a coolant line had ruptured. And there, in the center of the destruction, sat Ash. The cub had grown. Impossibly fast, it was now the size of a full-grown wolf, its crystalline bones visible through patches of translucent skin. The bioluminescent markings blazed bright blue in the darkness, and perched on its head, comically oversized, was Nova's helmet. Ash, Nova said carefully. I need that back. The cub's ears, 3 on each side, swiveled toward her. It made a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane, beautiful and unsettling. Then it bounded toward her, helmet still firmly attached, and placed itself between Nova and the damaged bulkhead. That's when she saw them. Through the crack in the bulkhead, shapes moved in the darkness beyond. She caught glimpses of segmented armor, razor-sharp limbs, compound eyes that reflected the emergency lights. Screeth. The locust-like aliens that had wiped out 4 colonies in this sector, stripping planets bare of resources and leaving nothing but bones. They'd found her station. Nova's blood went cold. Her hand moved to her sidearm, but she knew it was useless. The weapon would barely scratch their carapaces. Without her helmet's integrated targeting system and the heavy weapons in the armory, 3 decks away, she had maybe 30 seconds before they breached completely. Ash growled, a subsonic rumble that Nova felt in her bones. The cub still wore her helmet, but now Nova understood why. The Mark 7 wasn't just atmospheric processing. It contained her command codes, her biometric data, her access to the station's defense grid. Ash had taken it not as a toy, but as a key. Good cub, Nova whispered. You incredibly smart, terrifying cub. She tapped her wrist console, routing audio through the helmet's external speakers.
Ash, can you hear me?
The cub's ears perked. Its tail, spiked and deadly, lashed once. Not if you understand. Ash nodded. A clear, deliberate movement that sent chills down Nova's spine. I need you to protect the station. Can you do that? The Scraith chose that moment to strike. The bulkhead exploded inward in a shower of metal and sparks. 3 of them poured through, each the size of a ground transport, their mandibles clicking with hunger. Ash roared. The sound that came from the cub wasn't animal. It was a weapon. A sonic blast that Nova felt in her teeth and her marrow. The emergency lights shattered. Sparks rained down like stars. And Ash moved. What happened next, Nova would later struggle to explain in her report. The cub became a blur of crystalline fury, its body moving in ways that shouldn't be possible, striking from angles that defied geometry. The helmet's targeting system painted the Scraith's weak points in bright holographic markers that only Ash could see. And the cub exploited every single one. The first Scraith fell in seconds. Its armor cracked like an egg. The second tried to retreat but found Ash's jaws around its throat. The third almost reached Nova before the cub intercepted it. A leap that covered 10 meters in a heartbeat. Then there was silence, broken only by the sound of dripping ichor and Nova's ragged breathing. Ash limped back to her, the helmet still perched on its head, now covered in alien blood. The cub sat at her feet and looked up at her with those mirror fragment eyes. In the flickering emergency lights, its bioluminescent markings pulsed in what might have been satisfaction. Nova knelt and carefully removed her helmet. Ash let her, making that wind chime sound again. "Thank you," she said, and meant it with every atom of her being. The cub pressed its massive head against her chest, and Nova wrapped her arms around it, feeling the alien warmth of its crystalline bones. She'd violated first contact protocols. She'd let an unknown predator species have access to military-grade technology. She'd probably started an interspecies incident that would make the review boards back on Earth have collective aneurysms. But as she sat there in the ruined cargo bay, holding a creature that had just saved her life, Nova couldn't bring herself to care. "Come on," she said, standing. "Let's get this station secured. And then I'm getting you the biggest synthetic protein pack we have." Ash made a pleased chirping sound and padded after her, its tail swishing. Dawn came slowly to LV-447, the binary suns casting twin shadows across the station. Nova sat in her command chair, Ash curled at her feet, both of them watching the stars. Her report was already written, sitting in the queue for transmission. She'd told them everything, about the Scraith attack, about Ash, about the alliance that had formed in the dark. She had no idea what would come next. But as the cub's steady breathing filled the silence and its bioluminescent markings pulsed in contentment, Nova smiled. Whatever came, they'd face it together.